I'm John Cadillac Seville, and I'm here today with Kathy Moniello of Forever More Homes. Yes. It's a brand new series here on GCTV, Aging Gracefully, which we're all hoping to do, right? Smart choices for physical, financial, and emotional well-being, an educational series for seniors and their families. And to bring you the first topic, I'm really excited that you called and asked me to be a part of this because we're all trying to age gracefully, like we said. It's called Aging in Place. So Kathy, tell us about the series. How did it come to be? What is the purpose of it?
Sure. So I got together with a group of like-minded people in town, and there's a group that we belong to, very diverse backgrounds. There's some business people, some healthcare providers. The one thing we have in common is we all somehow touch the senior population.
Right.
So after one of the meetings, a group of us were talking, and we all had a vision of bringing some education to our community, but none of us really knew, how that should work and what it should look like. So in thinking it through from our own individual perspectives, we said, where do we see our seniors having trouble? Where are they experiencing some pain? And how can we help them prevent that? So we went about interviewing all sorts of professionals, and we asked that question, where do you see seniors having trouble? And we got, John, a whole host of topics across a variety of issues. So we realized that the vision may have been one or two sessions, one or two workshops, but we realized we needed to turn this into a series. So every month we have a different topic and a different speaker. Our speakers are people that are not only very knowledgeable and resourceful about their topic, but they have a passion for it, and they have kindness and empathy. And you know that when times get tough and you're dealing with a difficult situation, that little bit of kindness and empathy can make a huge difference.
Well, especially nowadays, we live in a world that's full of a lot of anger, a lot of divisiveness right now, and people need that. And when people are aging, many times they feel like there's no recourse. There's nowhere to go.
Well, right.
And it can be really scary as you're aging, and then that's where you come in.
Exactly. So first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to host this inaugural session.
Well, I enjoyed when you gave me the phone call that time, and we just seemed to have a real good connection on the phone.
Well, I'm glad, and your energy and your positivity is very contagious, so thank you. From here on in, we'll have different hosts, myself included, but today I'm actually going to be the speaker on the topic.
Oh, great.
So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that's aging in place.
Yeah, sure. So that's one thing we all have in common, right? And we want to age the best way we can, but the thing is we're living longer, but we also want quality of life.
Exactly, and let me throw out a couple of definitions there. So if you think about aging in place, I don't know if before this you've heard that term.
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
So if you look at like AARP or the CDC, they all talk about this because there's a common theme where we're trying to keep our population out of expensive healthcare facilities.
Yes.
So we're trying to keep them at home. So as I started getting more involved in aging in place and learning about it, I looked at CDC, I looked at the National Council on Aging, I looked at AARP. The CDC says, aging in place is the ability to live in one's own home and community safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. Okay, so that's fine. And then AARP, they don't come out and define it. They don't say this is our definition, but it's implied that it's the ability for someone to stay in their current home.
The current home.
Their current home. So, I didn't really love either one of those definitions. I would like to offer my own definition.
Okay, sure, let's hear it.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready, I'm ready, we're all ready.
So it's living comfortably and safely in the home of my choice,
Right, people want choices.
For as long as possible by making proactive and smart decisions for my physical, financial, and emotional well-being. So I feel like the others lack a little bit by not saying by doing this, and this. And I feel like they're lacking that choice.
Right.
So yeah, that's it's a very broad topic.
And that's where what you're doing is so different. You're talking about choice.
I want to get across to people, our viewers, and it's John, it's not just about seniors. So it's people our age and younger that are empty nesters, they're maybe downsizing and buying their next home.
Right.
What should they be looking for and thinking about in their home?
Sure.
And then it's people, also our age and younger that have aging parents. And so it's...
The roles kind of reverse a little bit, don't they?
For sure. So, we have these definitions and it seems easy, but it's really not. And as a result, most people don't do anything until their need is urgent.
And people take the ostrich mentality. Many times they're afraid if it's kind of a situation that they feel they have no control over. They'll put their head in the sand and not do anything. And that's where somebody like you will come in and say, hey, listen, I can help you. I can help you navigate through the hurdles.
Exactly.
Through the landmines.
And that gets us right into the next section that I'd like to talk about, and that's some of the obstacles that we see that people face when they're trying to age in place.
And what are those?
So I'm going to put them into three very broad categories, and the first is safety. And mostly when we talk about safety, it's fall prevention.
I used to train people at a gym, and I trained a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and I would be very proactive. I said the biggest source of accidents in a home is falling because of a lack of balance.
Exactly.
So we did a lot of balance exercising, a lot of core exercising. It's interesting you bring that up.
First of all, a fall for any one of us can be devastating.
Oh, sure can.
But the statistics out there show that an elderly person that falls and breaks their hip, their outcomes are not good at all.
Right.
And that's, when we think about safety in the home, there are a number of things, but fall prevention it's huge. The second thing is, as we all age, and like you said, I don't know anybody that's not aging.
Right.
We are going to, there'll be a time where we need help around the house. So it could be something simple as I need help cooking or shopping. Or, maybe I'm not as sharp, I'm not thinking as clearly as I used to, and I need help with my bills.
Yes.
I need help taking my medication. I can't drive any longer. I need to get to where I'm going to go.
The things we take for granted.
Exactly.
Isn't that amazing?
Exactly.
And then people get frustrated too. I see that because they feel like they're losing their independence. And there could be an anger thing there. And that's where you would come in and help them say, that's okay, we're here to help you. Right?
I think most people, I'm thinking about my own mom, she has raised her hand and said, I need help. So I think there are two camps.
Good for her, because a lot of people are just the opposite. They don't want that help.
I admire
They let pride get in the way.
But oftentimes it's family members and friends that come into the house and they start seeing things that are a little bit off, like there's no food in the refrigerator, mom and dad aren't looking as neat, and their hygiene maybe is...
Right, and the family and friends are coming out and they're seeing, because sometimes when we see people every day, we don't notice the changes.
Right.
Or it's kind of there, but somebody, when they hadn't seen someone for a week or two, they go, something a little bit different about that person.
Exactly.
Right?
So part of aging in place is knowing when and how to get some help in the home. We're not going to talk about that too much today, because that's actually the subject of our next in the series.
That's right.
So
that's what you call a tease, a promo tease in the radio TV biz. Okay. Very
and
good,
then the
Kathy.
last obstacle is isolation. So if we're at home and we are far from neighbors and far from community, we're not getting down to the wonderful community center that Guilford offers here for our seniors, and we're just home by ourselves, that is not good.
That's dangerous. I mean, isolation can lead to so many kind of medical problems.
Correct.
And even worse. You really need, we're social creatures.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we need, well, first of all, isolation can result in depression, and like you said,
anxiety
some
and all
actual
that.
physical.
It manifests on the body.
Yeah, for sure. So how do we age in place at home in a way that we're in a community and we have some vibrant activity around us?
And especially in Guilford.
Yeah.
This town has so many
We do.
great community places to go. They kind of stimulate the senses.
We do.
We're so blessed to be here.
We do. So if that's some of the obstacles, then how do we get around those obstacles?
And we're waiting for you to answer that.
That's what I'd like to talk to you next. It is a very broad topic, aging in place, and today I'm really focused on the housing. So when you think about being able to safely and comfortably live in the home of your choice, there are 6 key things that we look for in the home. There, of course, there are many little details, but if we focus on these 6 key things, we're well on our way.
Okay.
Number one, we would like to have a covered entry, so an attached garage or a covered carport leading to an entry to the home that's a low threshold.
Right.
And so that speaks to the whole fall prevention.
You want people slipping with rain, inclement weather?
Correct. So especially here in New England, we deal with ice and snow all the time.
Yes.
So we need to be able to get into our house safely. And if there's a time where the 1 or 2 stairs are problematic for us, we can add a ramp. So the guideline for a ramp is that for every inch of rise in the stair, we need a foot of ramp.
Okay.
So if you have a very high threshold entry with 5 steps to it, you're going to have a longer ramp.
Yes.
So that's number one,
Right.
is your entry. Number 2, one level living. Okay, so stairs are not our friends as we get older.
Yeah.
And as we lose mobility, we lose balance, stairs can become quite dangerous. So we want everything that we need. We want our kitchen, our family room, a full bathroom with a shower on one level.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if we don't have that, there are ways around it. So if our bedrooms and bath are upstairs, we can add a chairlift, or we can repurpose a room on the first floor.
Right.
So there are ways around
The
that.
chairlift could be a little expensive, though, can't it?
They are coming down in price.
Thank
There's a
goodness.
lot more competition in the market.
I mean, to be fair, everything's becoming more expensive.
True.
Sure, to be fair.
True. The only thing about a chairlift that worries me is if someone had balance issues, just getting on and off the chair.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge. They have great application in certain situations. I'd rather have everything on one floor.
Absolutely.
If I had.
If
my-
at all possible.
No, listen. We have constraints, so we have to do the best we can
Right.
within the constraints. I'm describing the ideal.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now next, wide hallways and doorways.
Mm-hmm.
My motto is plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever take your umbrella and say, oh, because I took my umbrella, it's not going to rain?
Yeah.
I'd rather
Yeah.
plan that there may be a day when I am in a wheelchair. I don't know if that's going to happen. I
Right.
hope it doesn't happen.
Sure.
But I want nice wide hallways and wide doorways, at least to get me to the core living areas, my kitchen, my bathroom,
Right.
my bedroom. Next, this is, I'm a big stickler about this, a curbless shower. So a curbless shower has no lip,
I see where you're going with this. Yes.
0 lip.
Right.
Even a threshold is a tripping hazard, and even it can be difficult for an older person to manage. So if we're renovating a bathroom, I want to tell everybody out there, if you're renovating a bathroom, please, curbless shower.
Yep, that's right.
It doesn't cost that much more, and what it can save is immeasurable.
Well, it's an investment. Yeah.
And for resale value, too.
Sure.
Okay, so you remember we talked about maybe needing a caregiver? If there comes a point where we need a caregiver 24 hours, that caregiver needs to sleep. And in Connecticut, there's legislation that you don't have to pay for those sleeping hours as long as you provide the caregiver with a private sleeping space.
Wow.
So if we can carve out some area in our
A lot of
home.
people are not aware of that either.
No.
They think right away, I got to pay a care. How am I going to afford this?
Right.
But if they're in the home and you have a place for them to sleep,
Right.
that's good.
That exactly the
Wow.
purpose of this series is to get little things like that that are not really public knowledge
Right.
out there.
Yeah.
So if you have a really nice space set up for your caregiver in a private area, maybe there's even like a little kitchenette that he or she could have their
Sure.
coffee breaks and whatever have you. It goes a long way in letting that caregiver know that you care and retaining a good caregiver.
Right. Yeah, you want to keep that caregiver, especially when the relationship is what it's all about, that trust factor.
Exactly.
That can be really disorienting for a person because as you get older, you get a bit less trustworthy sometimes, and you develop that trust in somebody coming in your home, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore.
Right.
So treat them like they're family, and they're more apt to stay.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on my last element of the 6 elements, and that's the vibrant neighborhood.
Right.
So if you're on a on a level street with a flat lot, and you have sidewalks, and you see your neighbors, you hear your neighbors, they come out, and
Right.
you want that kind of vibrancy. You don't want to be off on a country road where you can't see or hear
Right, or
anyone.
a cul-de-sac way in the back. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
That community is very important. So if you are in a neighborhood that has that element, then that's going to serve you well as you get older.
Sure.
So
I find that older people too love to be around younger people too.
Oh,
you know, that
yes.
vibe, that
Yes.
younger people, and of course animals are a big part of that as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I said that these were the ideal, and we need to get as close to the ideal as possible.
Mhm.
And for some, the right thing to do is stay in their current home and make modifications. And for others, the right thing is to move somewhere more age and place ready.
Yeah, I have a cousin who has a situation like that, and they decided to stay in their home.
Great.
They were familiar, they loved it, and they just pretty much gutted everything. She said whatever it takes
Yeah.
to make him feel comfortable in his own home.
Was he disabled or?
Well, just over the course of years, you know, and what's been happening, but I guess he can technically be called disabled right now, but I just never like to identify people as that. You know, it's not who they are; it's what they're going through.
Right.
It's not their
Exactly.
identity.
He needs some help with mobility,
Yeah, exactly.
and he's adapted his house to give him that.
Right,
That
and
safety
it's just
and
been
comfort.
fantastic for him.
Good. Now, you might ask, when does it make more of sense to move, and
Yeah.
when does it make more sense to stay?
I think you're going to answer that.
Everybody wants to stay in their own home, and I
Mm-hmm.
get that. AARP did a survey, and it was 77% of people said they agree or strongly agree with the statement, what I'd like to do is stay in my current home. It's comforting, it's a sense of familiarity, and I truly
Did you say
get that.
77%?
77%.
Really? I figured it would have been higher than that.
77 strongly or somewhat agree.
Right, okay.
And a very small percentage disagreed. They felt it would be better for them to move. However, if the home is becoming too difficult to maintain or too costly to maintain,
Yeah, that's where that other percentage point comes in.
if one level living is not possible, if you're in an isolated area, and if you don't have the wide hallways and doorways and that's not possible, then I would say to you, yes, I understand, John, that you really want to stay in this home, but I would suggest that you start thinking about other options that will help you stay age and place safer.
Yeah.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Once you look at the high level, then you have to start asking other questions. So what happens is all these questions swirl around in the person's mind. So, okay, well, if I were to stay, what modifications do I need? How much do those cost?
They want solutions because their questions are coming from a place of fear.
Of fear.
And uncertainty.
Yes.
And you're there to help, you know, hey, listen, here's what we can do. And I like the way you communicate, because if I'm around you and I'm a little bit fearful, you have that wonderful way about you that calms. You have a very calming way about you.
Thank you for saying that. And I think it's the uncertainty, but also the lack of clarity. I look at, I'll tell you about my own mom in a minute, but we start thinking, where would I go? What other options are out there? What would other housing options cost? Can I afford it? I
Yes.
don't have an income anymore. How am I going to get a mortgage? And on and on and on.
All the
these-
things that keep them up at night.
Yes. And because all these questions swirl around, it becomes overwhelming,
Yeah.
and then they do nothing.
Right.
That's not
You're
good.
talking about that ostrich in the sand,
Yep.
like we had mentioned earlier, syndrome.
Exactly. So,
Paralysis analysis.
yes, and you just put it in that little box in your head that says, this stuff is just too hard for me
Right.
right now, and I'm just going to put it away.
Sure.
And then it doesn't come out until something happens.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that in my life at times.
Of course. We all do it.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
Sure.
That's why this education is meant to tell people, don't do that.
And don't do that. Talk to
Please,
Kathy.
Plan, think about this and plan before the need is urgent. And that's the whole premise of this series. So I'd like to offer our viewers a process by which they can break this down and get a little bit more clarity around these decisions. Number one is to sit down and assess your situation. If you or I went right now online and we Googled aging in place assessment, you'll find some wonderful documents that they take you through step by step some key things to be thinking about, what to look for, questions to ask. So I would say that would be step number one.
And it makes it so much easier now with just going on the internet and finding all this.
Right.
If you're not able to get out of the house and move, you can go right to the computer. If you don't have a knowledge or a big knowledge of the computer to navigate around, find somebody who does in your family.
Right.
And will help you.
I'm glad you said that, because I think making this a family experience is very important.
Absolutely.
And engage your mom and dad in this conversation. Mom and dad, engage your adult children in this conversation, because we all want the same thing.
You want it to be collaborative, not like it's a dictatorship or somebody saying you need to do this. No, you're talking about somebody's life.
Right.
Show respect.
Right.
Everybody wants to be treated with dignity.
Exactly. So assess, get your family involved in thinking through some of these issues. The second thing I would like people to think about is doing a home inspection. Now, normally we do a home inspection when we buy a home to make sure we're not buying a lemon.
Right.
In this context, I think the home inspection is important, because if we're proposing modifications, we don't want to spend all this money doing a curbless shower if our roof is leaking.
Sure.
So then we have to prioritize and budget. So the home inspection will show us where there are areas that need maintenance. And if we don't maintain them, they're going to snowball and become costly.
And they're experts at seeing what we don't see.
Right.
They know where to look.
Exactly. Exactly. If we are proposing moving, then the home inspection will help us identify issues before our buyer comes in. And that way, if there are things that we could attend to that are very cost effective and their inspection can then be squeaky clean, that's good. That's
a good thing.
Yeah, that's going to help us get more for that home.
Sure.
Okay, so that's the second thing. Then we recommend that you actually have, and this is especially for an older person or someone that does have some kind of a mobility issue, have an occupational therapist come into your home and help you, watch you with your activities of daily living. That person is trained to see things and to see how you can function better in your home. And that person can have real input into what needs to change in your home to make it work.
Yeah, just based on your daily activities and your routines.
Yep.
Just watching you, where you navigate around, and how you move.
Precisely.
What you may need to keep your balance.
Exactly. And like I said, they're trained to do this. And I am trained somewhat as well, but I don't come from that occupational therapy background. And just to give you a real quick example, I was working with a family and the husband has Parkinson's. And the occupational therapist said to him, you may at some point have a little bit of difficulty turning. So turning into a room or turning down a hallway. And what she really wanted us to do was think about a straight pathway for him. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
I would have never
Right.
thought of that.
And Parkinson's, just a little aside, boxing is great for them.
Is it?
People that have Parkinson's, I know several people that are battling with that now, and boxing is a great way to kind of handle that and to kind of diffuse it a little bit and give them a good
interesting.
quality of life.
That's it. I've heard dancing. But
Dancing as well too,
Yeah.
Just exercise a certain neurological paths in the brain,
Gotcha.
which really helps with that.
That's interesting. So once we have our occupational therapist in, then it's okay, well, what changes do we need to make in this house? Do we need to widen a doorway? Do we need to put in a curbless shower? Do we need to add a ramp? So if we stayed, what do we need to do?
Sure.
The second is pricing out those jobs. So how much is all this going to cost? So we know we want to widen the doorway. How much is it going to cost to widen
We all know things that need to be done, but the biggest fear is, what's it going to cost?
Exactly.
Can we afford it?
So we need to know. So we need to know if we stay, what do we do? How much does it cost?
Right.
So you get that done and you kind of put that aside. Next is understanding how much our home is currently worth. So what is the value of our home before we do these changes and after? The equity in the home is important. We may use that equity to finance a move, to finance repairs. So knowing how much your home is worth, very important. You can get an appraiser or you can get a licensed real estate agent to help you with that. And again, get that information, put it aside, okay? Explore other housing options. Where could you see yourself living? Could you see yourself downsizing, going to an apartment, going to a condo, going to senior housing, going to independent living.
There's so many options.
There really are.
And it could be, quite frankly, depending on how you look at it, what your mindset is, it could be an exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
And I have a tendency to look at things when I look at them and say, oh, well, what's good about this situation?
I'll tell you my mom's story, and it's exactly, she's going through a transition, and she's so excited.
Yeah, yeah.
So now, once you've got these little pieces of information that you've gathered through this process, now you go and sit with your trusted advisors, your financial advisor, your accountant, your attorney, and say, this is what we're thinking. Here's the different cost factors. What path do I go down to make sure that I don't outlive my money? And get the financial and advisors to weigh in on what's viable, what they can handle from a cash flow basis, what's going to protect their equity, all those things that those financial people do that are very important.
It's a really good point, because we all want to live a long life, but we don't want to outlive our money too.
No.
That's something that we don't
So,
want to happen.
it seems like a lot, but I want people to know that if you just start and you start breaking it down, putting it away is not going to help.
No.
The thought about moving is not fun. The thought about having a contractor in your house is not fun.
Right.
It really isn't. It's stressful. But doing nothing is not
It's even worse.
the answer.
You want to put the right people in the right places,
Exactly.
and get references out there, get referrals from people that you trust.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Right. So
You're going to tell me a story about your mother.
I want to tell you the story, and that's why I'm so passionate about this, and that's why I got involved in it. Probably 7 years ago, she decided she needed to downsize, and so she and I went on this journey together. And she's a very sharp, smart lady.
Still got all her wits about her.
All her wits about her, but it is overwhelming. And so to have a family member, as I said before, to kind of go down the journey with you is very helpful. So we found a house that needed renovation, so we got it renovated, and she was very happy there until she wasn't.
Oh, okay.
So then she just didn't want to deal with maintaining the house, snow removal, gardening, and she said, I'm ready to move on.
I'm done.
So she moved,
yeah.
and she moved into a one-level condo right in the center of Branford.
Which is what you're all about, the one level?
One level, center of Branford, the activity, the vibrancy.
Sure, I love that Branford Green area and all the stores
Absolutely.
there. It's great, it's
So
beautiful.
she could walk to town, and she did, and she loved that until she didn't.
Right.
COVID. Okay, so COVID hit, and she felt very isolated.
Sure.
Then we started to get out after COVID. She injured her knee.
Oh,
It's better. But she felt very closed in, and she's a very social person, and she needed that activity and that
need that
community.
stimuli.
So she is going to an independent living community. She's moving next Monday.
Right. Is she excited about it?
She's so excited.
Really?
She really is. And I have to give her a lot of credit, because she, before things became urgent, she saw things changing, and she raised her hand and said, it's time for me to think about something different.
So she was very proactive.
Very, yeah. So,
Wow, a marvelous lady.
and so the other point with that story is it may not be just one transition. It may be,
Multiple.
maybe.
It's all levels in life.
Yes.
My motto has always been in life, every setback is really a setup for something better.
Yeah.
That's how I've always lived my life. Whenever a setback comes on, I thank it, what can I learn from it? And I expect something better to happen along.
That's so true.
Right.
That's so true. And every time I'm with you, you remind me of that. And again, your positivity just is it's energizing.
Well, thank you, Kathy. I love what you're doing.
Great.
I love what you're doing out there. So
Great.
there's going to be a follow-up to this,
Well,
right?
we're going to have, every month we're going to have a new topic. And
Wow.
next month, we talked a little bit about the activities of daily living and how to get help with those activities. So next week, we have Rhea Pattison. I'm sorry, next month. Not next week.
Yeah.
Rhea Pattison is going to come in, and she'll be with us. She is a health advocate, and she's a nurse by background, and she is going to help us understand how to approach home care, how to develop a list of home care agencies available, how to compare them, how to engage them, what to do if something's not going right.
Right.
So that's our topic, and I think it dovetails quite nicely with this, because you can't have one without the other.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we appreciate you really listening in today. I mean, I learned a lot, and I'm sure you did as well. But Kathy Moniello of Forever More Homes, and it's a GCTV program. It's a new series called Aging Gracefully, Smart Choices for Physical, Financial, and Emotional Well-Being, an educational series for seniors and their families as we all try to age in place and do it gracefully, right, Kathy? I'd like to thank Shannon and Gail and everybody over at GCTV for their hospitality. We'd like to thank you for listening, and I know that I can say this for you, Kathy, I'm just very proud to live in this community. It's a great community, and Kathy, thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you, John.
I appreciate you.
It.